Hey Knights, so I'm doing the next two chapters. So chapter 13, Pause and Reflect. Neither Jessie or the doctor had spoken for a long time. May knew that immediately. She had been piloting the bus when she had seen on the monitor that connected to the holding bay that the TARDIS had appeared. She had seen Jessie's meltdown. She had seen Coulson ask the question about Celine. She had seen the doctor's reply she was home. Other than that, there had been nothing. Jessie seemed to cling to Skye for a long time, and the doctor merely helped Gemma and Fitz tinker with something they needed help with. Something was going on, and she needed to know exactly what. She set the plane on autopilot and took off her headphones, stood, and then headed out of the cockpit. Coulson was reading a file report when the door opened without a knock. He looked up as May came in, looking tense. He instantly set the file down. Something wrong? He asked. What happened? Was all she asked. He blinked. I'm sorry. With the doctor and Jessie, May replied, sitting herself down in a chair. They took Celine with them after the incident at the school. They came back a week later on the bus, and Jessie started clinging to Skye like a lifeline, and the doctor's not saying anything either. And where the hell is Celine? Coulson leaned back in his chair. I don't know, he admitted. Neither of them seemed keen to talk. Then we need to get them to. Coulson shook his head. That won't work. It will if we do. Coulson looked at her. You want to make the two of them talk? You talk to Jessie, she replied. I'll talk to the doctor. Coulson folded his arms, thinking before nodding. All right, I will. The doctor kept looking at the literal ice gun that Gemma and Fitz had asked him for help on. Really, how humans could make these things was beyond him. He aimed the sonic screwdriver at the center of the gun. The doors behind him slid open, and he jumped in surprise, looking over his shoulder to see Melinda May standing there. He took a deep breath. Do you always surprise people like that? He asked, turning back to the gun. Only when I want to, she replied, walking around the table. Do you know what it's for? Depends, the doctor replied, in a muffled voice, opening the core of the gun. Ice gun. Funny. Who made this? Students at the Agent Academy. Brilliant. If I just knew how they worked. What happened? The doctor looked up sharply to see May standing there with her arms crossed. I'm sorry, he stammered. How did Celine leave? The doctor leaned on the table, looking at her. That's for Jessie to tell you. She's worse off than you are, May told him. You know that, and you keep avoiding her, like you're trying to avoid making it worse. I'll ask again. She leaned forward. What happened that made Celine leave? Jessie hadn't slept for, she checked her watch, 20 hours and 17 minutes, she thought, sighing as she laid her head on the bar. Rough night? Jessie just grunted in reply when she heard Coulson's voice. He chuckled and moved around the table. Sounds like it. Don't know the half of it, she mumbled. Then tell me about it. Jessie shook her head. No. Jessie, what's so bad that you can't talk anymore? He asked, pouring a drink and sitting across from her. She lifted her head slightly. Something I don't want to talk about, she replied in a dull tone. You come onto the bus a sobbing mess, and the doctor only says she's gone home, Coulson told her, leaning forward. Something happened. What is it? Was she hurt? She shook her head, and Coulson narrowed his eyes. Killed? Delete, delete, delete. Exterminate, exterminate. No, Jessie replied hoarsely, although I don't know any more. Don't have my phone to call her now. Well, where is it? With her. Coulson shook his head. Then call her on another phone to get to her. Jessie shook her head. I doubt it'll work. Come on, Jessie, what happened out there? The doctor looked at May, then folded his arms. You don't want to know. Oh, I do, May assured him, and I'm not the only one who does, because the way she's acting, it's like she just lost her best friend. Both of them, the doctor replied shortly before going back to the gun. May slammed her hands down on the table. Is she dead? She asked. The doctor jerked. No, he said quickly. No, that's not what I meant. Then what happened, doctor? May shouted at him, and the doctor stood up as well, narrowing her eyes at him. What the hell happened? We fell through the void in a parallel world of this one, the doctor spat out. A parallel version where almost everything was the same, except for two things. Grant was still alive, and what's worse, Jessie didn't exist. May's eyes widened, and she took a step backward. It was under attack from a man called John Lumick, who rebuilt one of the worst enemies called Cybermen. The parallel version of Celine was killed, and you know who else was killed, Melinda May? Do you really want to know? He didn't wait for her to answer. The parallel version of Skye, who had married that world's Grant. May's eyes widened further. No, you asked for it. You're getting the whole thing, the doctor growled, coming around the table after her. The Cybermen were taking over London. Grant was the only one left from Cybus Industries that was not taking control of. There were 6 of us that went into the factories. Mrs. Monroe, who was electrocuted to death. Jesse found the parallel sky, turned into a Cyberman, and Celine stayed behind to help liberate the Earth of every cyber factory that exists there. He leaned forward in her face. Now tell me, Melinda May, he said lowly, does that answer your question? She stared at him in shock and reply. He shook his head and slammed the door of the lab open and headed for the TARDIS, ready to get off of the bus. Quite frankly, he didn't understand how Jessie could deal with him sometimes. Jessie looked down at her arms, wondering what to tell Coulson. She died, she finally whispered. Coulson narrowed his eyes. What? In a parallel universe, Jessie choked out. Where Grant was still alive, his version of Sky died. Coulson froze. What? Jessie kept sobbing, not holding back anything. A universe where I didn't exist. Celine's parallel self was killed, and that's where she is now. Grant was still alive. He'd married Sky. It was her birthday when Lumix Cybermen attacked. They killed everyone in the house, and only the doctor, Grant, and I got away. She'd been turned into one of them. Coulson paled considerably. Jessie, She shook her head and standing. No, she said shakily. You wanted to know. There you go. She ran down the stairs, hearing Coulson running after her, but that just made her go faster. She fumbled with her key in the lock of the TARDIS, yanking the doors open. Coulson made it down the stairs, and May emerged from somewhere else, but she slammed the door behind her. The TARDIS engine started immediately, and she turned, rubbing her eyes to see the doctors at the control, staring at her. You too? He asked. Jessie simply nodded, walking over. The doctor hugged her tightly, close to his body. She buried her face into his suit, finding comfort in his double heartbeat. Your choice, he whispered to her. Where now? Jessie sniffed, then smiled a little. Well, I've always had a small interest in the Vegas era. Coulson and May were still standing there when they heard Gemma's voice above her. They left. Coulson looked up to see the 3 others standing there, staring at them. They talked, he said simply. What happened? Sky asked. May opened her mouth to respond, but Coulson cut her off. Celine's home where she belongs, he said, ignoring the look May gave him. They went someplace they weren't supposed to go. It wasn't the best experience. Gemma and Vince nodded and went to the lab, but Sky kept staring at where the TARDIS had been before shaking her head and leaving as well. You didn't tell him about the parallel world, May whispered. It's not my story to tell, was all he said in reply. Chapter 14. The Idiot's Lantern. Jessie wrinkled her nose at the fluffy violet dress the TARDIS had picked out for her, pulling on her denim jacket and sliding an icer into one of its inside pockets. I'm not wearing the heels, she told the doctor. He grinned at her. Why not? Jessie stuck her tongue out her and instead began lacing up black, high-heeled boots. No shoes. I'll do boots, but not those shoes. The doctor groaned, messing up his hair even more. I'll get a ride. You look outside. Jessie walked to the doors and stepped outside, then held up a hand against the sunlight, checking her surroundings. I thought we were heading to the Vegas era, she called into the TARDIS. He poked his head out. You're kidding, aren't you? You want to see people like Elvis go for the late 50s. The time before burgers. He went back into the TARDIS, still talking. When they called him the pelvis, he still had a waist. What's more? She jumped when she heard the revving of a motorbike engine, and she laughed when the doctor rode out on an old-fashioned motorcycle, complete with a white helmet and shades. She burst out laughing, and he grinned at her. You see him in style, he crowed, and then put on Elvis' impression. You going my way, doll? She smirked. Is there any way to go, Daddy-O? She shot back in a matching impression, putting on her own dark violet shades and walking up to him. Straight from the fridge, man. He grinned. Hey, you speak the lingo, he praised. Steve made us watch Cliff Richard movies ever so often, Jessie replied, climbing on behind him and putting on the violet helmet he handed her. Sky was quite a fan of them and made us watch them every bank holiday Monday. Ah, Cliff, the doctor said happily. I knew Sky would be a fan. Jessie grinned and wrapped her arms around his waist as he drove off. So, where are we off to? Ed Sullivan TV Studios, he replied. Elvis did hound dog on one of the shows. There were loads of compliments. Bit of a luck. We'll just catch it. She looked around. And that'll be TV studios in what? New York? That's the one. A double-decker red London bus drove in front of them, and Jessie began to snicker into the doctor's shoulder as he skidded to a stop, and she burst out laughing when she saw the Union flag hung between houses all around them. Oh yeah, she laughed, totally digging that New York vibe. Well, the doctor began, looking around. This could still be New York. This looks very New York to me. Sort of Londonary New York, mind. She smirked at him. Then what are all the flags for? He paused. Well, Jessie 1, Doctor 0. She thought in satisfaction. There you go, sir, a television man told someone, and Jessie read his name tag, Magpie. All wired up for the great occasion. The great occasion? The doctor asked as they walked up to him. What do you mean? Magpie looked at him in surprise. Where have you been living? In the colonies? He asked. Coronation, of course. What coronation's that, then? The man blinked. What do you mean, the coronation? Jessie's eyes brightened. It's the Queen, she realized. Queen Elizabeth? The doctor's eyes widened. Oh, he exclaimed, then grinned. Is this 1953? Last time I looked, Magpie confirmed, looking at him oddly. Time for a lovely bit of pomp and circumstance. What we do that best. Look at all the TV aerials, Jessie said, looking around, seeing all the satellites. Looks like everyone's got one. She scratched her head. Tony said his father told him that televisions were so rare they all had to pile into one house. Magpie chuckled. Not around here, love. Magpie's marvelous tellies, only 5 quid a pop. I really need to speak British lingo, she muttered. Oh, but this is a brilliant year, the doctor exclaimed, grinning at her. Classic. Technicolor, Everest climbed, everything off the ration. The nation grows off the shadows of war and looking forward to a happier, brighter future. Someone help me, please, a woman screamed from off the side. Jessie poked her head around the van as 2 big men in suits handled a person into the back of a black car with a blanket over his head. Ted, leave him alone, the woman screamed, running out of her house. He's my husband, please. What's going on? The doctor asked her, running to her side. Another house door opened and a boy ran out. Oi, he shouted to them. What are you doing? Police business, one of them replied simply. Now get out of the way, sir. Who did they take? Jessie asked the boy. Do you know him? Must be Mr. Gallagher, the boy replied, watching the car drive off. It's happening all over the place. They're turning into monsters. Jessie threw a look at the doctor, who had an eyebrow raised curiously. Monsters. Tommy! Jessie looked up when a big man in a military uniform appeared in the doorway of the house the boy ran out of, looking at the boy with anger. Not one word. Get inside. Now. Tommy smiled apologetically at her. Sorry, I better do as he says. Jessie watched him go, then grinned when the doctor grabbed their moped, putting his helmet on and tossing hers to her. All aboard. Jessie clung to the doctor as he weaved through London streets, looking over his shoulder for the car they were following. They turned a corner into an alleyway, and Jessie blinked in surprise at the same time the doctor stopped. Lost them, he said in surprise. How'd they get away from us? Surprised they didn't turn back and arrest you for reckless driving, Jessie commented, patting his shoulder. Have you actually passed your test? He ignored her completely. Men in black, he asked. Vanishing police cars, she snorted. This is Churchill's England, not Stalin Russia. Jessie tilted her head. Monsters, that boy said. She mused out loud. Maybe we should go and ask the neighbors. He grinned at her over his shoulder. That's what I love about you, the domestic approach. Thank you, she said, pleased, then frowned. Wait a minute. Was that an insult? Her only answer was when the doctor took off again. Hey, she squealed. Jessie rapped on the door when she'd seen the boy Tommy disappear into. The door opened a moment later by the man in military uniform. She smiled brightly at him. Hi, she said cheerfully, in sync with the doctor, both of them leaning their heads in towards each other. Who are you, then? The man asked. Let's see, then. The doctor went off at a rapid speed. Judging by the looks of you, family man, nice house, decent wage, fought in the war, therefore, my sister and I represent Queen and country. Sister, Jessie thought as he flashed the psychic paper. The man blinked. Just doing a little check of her forthcoming Majesty's subjects before the great day. Don't mind if I come in. The doctor didn't give him a chance to respond. Nah, I didn't think you did. He took her hand as they pushed past the man. Thank you. She smiled as they walked through the foyer and into the living room, the doctor inspecting everything closely. Not bad, he complimented. Very nice, very well kept. He turned to the woman cleaning. I'd like to congratulate you, Mrs. Colony, she replied. Now then, Rita, I can handle this, Mr. Colony said formally, but it was also tinged with warning. Jessie instantly disliked him. This gentleman's a proper representative. A no acknowledgement for the lady, she thought with distaste as he turned to the doctor. Don't mind the wife. She rattles on a bit. Well, maybe she should rattle on a bit more, the doctor replied, looking around. I'm not convinced you're doing your patriotic duty. He held up a string of Union flags. Nice flags. Why are they not flying? Mr. Colony took his cue. There we are, Rita. I told you. Get them up, Queen and Country. I'm sorry, Rita apologized hurriedly, putting down what she had in her hand. Get it done. Do it now. Hold on a minute, the doctor said, holding up a hand. Like the gentleman says. Hold on a minute, the doctor interrupted, pointing to Mr. Colony. You've got hands, Mr. Colony. 2 big hands, so why is this your wife's job? Well, it's housework, isn't it? Jessie rolled her eyes, and the doctor rocked on his hands behind his back. Mr. Colony, what gender is the Queen? He asked innocently. Mr. Colony blinked. She's a female. The doctor tilted his head, inspecting the flags again. And are you suggesting the Queen does the housework? Mr. Colony shook his head fiercely. No, not at all. The doctor nodded to the flags. Then get busy. Right, he nodded with a salute. Yes, sir, you'll be proud of us, sir. We'll have Union Jacks left, right, and center. Oh, don't salute, the doctor muttered. Jessie leaped forward at the wording, remembering something Steve said Peggy Carty had mentioned in the war. Excuse me, Mr. Connolly, he turned to her. Hang on a minute, Union Jacks. He nodded. Yes, that's right, isn't it? That's the Union flag, she corrected. It's the Union Jack only when it's flown at seas. Mr. Colony's face fell. Oh, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Oh, don't get it wrong again, she said sternly, keeping a straight face. There's a good man. Now get to it. He nodded and went to hanging the flags, and she folded her arms, throwing a smirk and a wink at the doctor. He grinned at her. Right then, he said, plopping down on the couch next to Rita in her chair. Nice and comfy at Her Majesty's leisure. He raised an eyebrow at Jessie, sat next to him. Union flag, he asked. Steve was a good friend of Agent Peggy Carter during the war, she exclaimed. British, one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, ho, ho, the doctor said appreciatively. I like her. Jessie grinned, and the doctor turned to the 2 other house members. Anyway, I'm the doctor, and this is Jessie. And you are? He asked, looking at the boy leaning against the couch. Tommy, he replied. Well, sit yourself down, Tommy, the doctor encouraged, patting the couch next to them. The boy did. Have a look at this, he grinned. I love telly, don't you? He nodded. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. Good man, he threw a look over his shoulder. Keep working, Mr. C. He leaned in towards Rita and Tommy. Now, why don't you tell me what's wrong? Did you say you're a doctor? Rita whispered. The doctor nodded. Yes, I am. Can you help her? She asked, tears running down her face. Oh, please, can you help her, doctor? Jessie raised her eyebrow, and Mr. Colony turned from what he was doing. Now then, Rita, I don't think the gentleman needs to know. No, the doctor interrupted. The gentleman does. Tell us what's wrong, and we can help, Jessie added. Rita started crying harder, and Jessie switched from where she was on the couch to standing in a crouch, rubbing Rita's back. I'm sorry, it's all right. Come here. Rita leaned into her, and Jessie hugged her. It's okay. Hold on a minute, Mr. Colony growled. Queen and Country's one thing, but this is my house. What the... He looked down in his hands and threw the flags down. What the hell am I doing? He turned to the doctor, beginning to shout. Now you listen here, doctor. You may have fancy credentials, or fancy qualifications, but what goes on under my roof is my business. A lot of people are being bubbled into, the doctor began to think aloud. I am talking, Mr. Colony roared, and Jessie flinched away from the glare that swept the room, lingering on her and his wife for a while. And I'm not listening, the doctor barked back. Stop. The doctor barked back, standing so he blocked Mr. Colony's view of Jessie. Now you, Mr. Colony, you are staring into a deep, dark pit of trouble if you don't let me help. So I'm ordering you, sir. Tell me what's going on. There were thumps from upstairs, and Jessie looked up. Mr. Colony swallowed. She won't stop, he finally said. She never stops. We started hearing stories all around the place, Tommy began to explain. People who've changed, families keeping it secret because they're scared. Then the police started finding out. We don't know how. No one does. They just turn up and come to the door and take them. Any time of day or night. Show me, the doctor ordered. Tommy headed for the stairs, and the doctor followed. Jessie patted Rita's shoulder and then went after the doctor. When they made it up the stairs, Tommy opened the door on the landing that was completely dark inside. Gran, he whispered. It's Tommy. It's all right, Gran. I've brought help. He flickered the light on, and Jessie gripped the doctor's arm tightly when she saw the old woman standing in front of them. She looked normal, except for one thing. Her face is completely gone, the doctor said in surprise, walking forward and pulling out the sonic screwdriver and scanning her. Scarcely an electrical impulse left, almost completely neural shutdown. She's ticking over. It's like her brain has been wiped clean. What are we going to do, doctor? Tommy asked. We can't even feed her. The sound of wood creaking downstairs made Jessie turn. We've got company, she said tensely. It's them, Rita gasped. They've come for her. Quickly, the doctor told Tommy, leaning down as Jessie watched the same men from earlier start to swarm into the house. What was she doing before this happened? Where was she? Tell me, quickly, think. I can't think, Tommy replied heartily. She doesn't leave the house. She was just... The men burst into the room, and the doctor turned to them, holding his hand up. Hold on a minute, he told them. There are 3 important, brilliant, and completely complicated reasons why you should listen to me. 1. Jessie squeaked when he got punched in the face and knocked out. Doctor! The man went to the grandmother, and she dropped down, smacking the doctor's face, trying to wake him up. Doctor! She finally groaned, placing her hands on both of his hearts, preparing to try and give him a shock, when he sat up straight, nearly hitting her in the head. She fell back with a yelp as he straightened up. Ah, hell of a right hook, he commented gleefully, standing up and pulling her with him. Have to watch out for that. He ran down the stairs, and Jessie took off after him. Mr. Collinet was holding back Rita. Don't fight it, he was saying. Back inside. Jessie, come on, the doctor told her, running out of the door. She made to follow, but she stopped when she saw red energy around the TV. What in blazes? She whispered, walking over to it. Jess, we're going to lose them again. The energy disappeared, and Jessie stooped down, turning the TV around and watching the energy disappear into the serial connection. She smirked when she found the supplier's label. Gotcha, Magpie, she whispered. Anyways, how did they find her? Tommy was asking as he and the rest of the family returned indoors. You, Mr. Collinet roared, and Jessie jumped about a foot in the air, turning quickly to see him storming over to her. Get the hell out of my house. I'm going, she yelped in reply, scurrying for the hallway. I'm done. Nice to meet you, Tommy, Mrs. Collinet. She went to disappear, but then she saw the flags and smirked, wanting to have one last word. She poked her head around the corner. And Mr. Collinet? Only an idiot hangs the Union flag upside down. She grinned at him when his face grew red. Shame on you, she crowed before leaving. The doctor hated taking off without Jessie, but if he knew better, she'd find a way to get back. He stopped the moped at the end of the same alleyway as before, but he grinned when he saw what he had missed the first time, the stalls being moved to cover a hidden entrance. Oh, very good, he commented. Very good. He parked the moped and walked towards the big gates that he saw, using the sonic screwdriver to unlock the door. He stopped in the shadow when he saw the men that took the woman padlock. Doctor Who! Padlock a wire door. When they walked off, he went over and unlocked it again. He looked around the area inside, narrowing his eyes when he saw the large cages. What do they have in here? He had a guess, but he opened one of the doors. He clicked on a flashlight and swung it around. His eyebrows shot up when many faceless people turned towards him in his light. Searchlights turned on and aimed at him, and he swallowed, keeping his back turned as people approached. Stay where you are, someone ordered. Definitely could use you, Jessie, he muttered. Jessie found Magpie's shop and opened the door, looking around as she entered. And she raised her eyebrow at the amount of TVs in stock. Well, that's impressive, she muttered. Oh, I'm sorry, miss, Magpie's voice told her, and she looked up as she stood from the desk. I'm afraid you're too late. I was just about to lock the door. Yeah, she asked. Well, I want to buy one of the TVs. Come back tomorrow, please. You'll be closed, won't you? He blinked. What? Jessie raised an eyebrow. Is he daft, she wondered. For the big day, she prompted. The coronation? Yes, of course, he agreed hurriedly, and she folded her arms. The big day. I'm sure you'll find somewhere to watch it. Please go. Seems to me half of London's got a television, since you're practically giving them away, she said lightly. I have my reasons. And what are they? Hungry. Jessie turned in surprise when one of the TVs turned on, showing a dark-haired woman staring. Hungry. What's that, she asked. It's just television, Magpie replied quickly. One of those modern programs. Now, I really do think you should leave right now. Not until I've answered my question, Jessie replied, adjusting her arms so that they were inside her jacket, one hand on her icer. How come your TVs are so cheap? It's my patriotic duty, he replied. Seems only right that way as many folks as possible get to watch the coronation. We may be losing the empire, but we can still be proud. 20 million people, they'd reckon, will be watching. Imagine that, and 20 million people can't be wrong, eh? So why don't you get yourself back home and get up bright and early for the big day? Nah, she replied. I'm not leaving until I've seen everything. I need to close. Mr. Magpie, something's happening out there, she began to accuse. Ordinary people are being struck down and changed, and the only new thing in the house is a TV. Your TV. What's going on? He slumped. I knew this would happen, he muttered. I knew I'd be found out. He walked over to the door and locked it, and Jessie stepped back, wishing she'd worn better boots and better clothes than just a dress. All right, then, she said. I just told you and me. It's just you and me. You're going to come clean now. Then, what's really in it for you? For me? Magpie asked. Perhaps some peace. From what? Magpie nodded to a TV with a woman on it. From her. That's just a woman on the TV, Jessie snorted. That's just a program. What a pretty little girl. Jessie whipped around to the woman in the TV, seeing her look right at her. Oh my God, are you talking to me? She demanded. Yes, I'm talking to you, little one, the woman replied with a smile. Unseasonably chilly for the time of year, don't you think? What are you? Jessie asked. I'm the Wire, and I'm hungry. Instincts always told her to protect 2 moves ahead, and when she saw the telltale red energy begin to spike, she ducked down behind a desk, but the energy missed her. Magpie, she shouted. Just think of that audience tomorrow, my dear, all settling down to watch the coronation. 20 million people, the Wild crowed, still trying to get Jessie even as she kept darting behind other objects. Things will never be the same again. Jessie didn't want to hear any more, and she ran through the wall of the shop, but she tripped over her boots. She heard a call pull up, even as she hit her head hard on the pavement, and was knocked out. Start from the beginning, Inspector Bishop demanded, sitting down across from the doctor. Tell me everything you know. Well, the doctor began slowly. For starters, I know you can't wrap your hand around your elbow and make your fingers meet. Bishop growled. Don't get clever with me. You were there today at Florell's Street, and now breaking into this establishment. Now you're connected with this. Make no mistake. Well, that's the thing. Well, the thing is, Detective Inspector Bishop. How do you know my name? He demanded. The doctor raised an eyebrow. Humans, he thought with a snort. It's written inside your collar, he pointed out, smirking a little when Bishop looked down. Bless your mom, he added as an afterthought. I just can't help thinking, Detective Inspector. You're not exactly doing much detective inspecting, are you? I'm doing everything in your power. All you're doing is grabbing those faceless people and hiding them as fast as you can. Don't tell me. Orders from above. Coronation Day. The eyes of the world are on London town. So any sort of problem just gets swept out of sight. The nation has an image to maintain, Bishop replied. But doesn't it drive you mad, doing nothing? The doctor asked, having sort of a hint as to why Jessie loved working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't you want to get out there and investigate? Of course I do, he exclaimed. But with all the crowds expected, we haven't got the manpower. Even if we did, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. I just don't know anymore. He rubbed his head. 20 years on the force. I don't even know where to start. We haven't the faintest clue what's going on. Well, that could change, the doctor commented. How? Start from the beginning, the doctor leaned forward. Tell me everything you know. Bishop stared at him, then nodded and began. We started to find them out a month ago. Persons left Sans Vinid. Visage. Heads just blank. Is there any sort of pattern? Bishop nodded. Yes, spreading out from North London, all over the city. Men, women, kids, grannies. The only real lead there has been quite a large number in. It clicked in more ways than one. Florizel Street, he guessed. Bishop nodded and he was about to talk some more when the door opened. Found another one, sir, a man announced. Good man, Crabberty, Bishop commented. She's not blank, though, but she was on Florizel, Crabberty continued as another man entered, and the doctor's eyes widened when he saw who he had. Looked like she came right out of the shadows, tripped and was knocked out cold. Jessie, he whispered, walking forward quickly and holding out his arms. You know her? Bishop asked as the man transferred his companion to him. The doctor swallowed and nodded as he crouched down, keeping Jessie steady and seeing the gash in her head where she'd fallen. He pulled out his sonic screwdriver, adjusting the settings, and aimed it at the gash, helping it heal up. Where was she? He asked. Just by the streets, Bishop replied. She was just there, out in the open. In the street, Jessie growled, checking her pulse. It was fine, but who knows how hard she'd hit her head, and who knew when she would wake up. Wherever she was there for a reason, and if someone made her run, then that makes things simple. Very, very simple. He looked up, his eyes burning, as he looked at Bishop. Do you know why? No, Bishop replied honestly. He stood up, carrying Jessie bridal style. Because now, just Detective Inspector Bishop, there's no power on this earth that can stop me, he declared, running for the door. Come on. Bishop rang the doorbell on the Colonnade house, and it was Tommy who opened the door. He saw Jessie slumped in the doctor's arms, and his eyes widened. Is she? Tommy, talk to me, the doctor told him hurriedly. I need to know exactly what happened inside your house. Mr. Colonnade appeared, and his eyes burning into the doctor. What the blazes do you think you're doing? He barked. I want to help, Dad, Tommy protested. Mr. Colonnade, the doctor began. Shut your face, you, Mr. Colonnade snapped. Whoever you are, we can handle this ourselves. The doctor narrowed his eyes, then looked down when he felt Jessie stir a little. He laid a hand against her cheek, then returned to look at Mr. Colonnade when he turned to his son. Listen, you little twerp, you're hardly out of the blooming cradle, so I don't expect you to understand, but I've got a position to maintain. People around here respect me. It matters what people think. Is that why you did it, Dad? Tommy asked. Mr. Colonnade blinked. What do you mean? Did what? You rattled on Gran, Tommy accused as Rita began to join them, and she stopped short when Tommy made the accusation. How else would the police know where to look unless some coward told them? How dare you, Mr. Colonnade roared, and the doctor frowned. Do you think I fought a war just so a mouthy little scum like you could call me a coward? You don't get it, do you? Tommy shouted, and the doctor couldn't help but a small smile coming out as Tommy began to stand up for himself. You fought against fascism, remember? People telling you how to live? Who you could be friends with, who you could fall in love with, who could live, who had to die. Don't you get it? You were fighting so that little twerps like me could do what we want, so say what we want. Now you become just like them. You've been informed on everyone, haven't you? Even Gran, all to protect your precious reputation. Rita looked at her husband in shock. Eddie, is that true? Eddie swallowed, and Jessie's head rolled back, a small moan slipping out of her lips. It's all right, the doctor whispered to her. You're all right. The wire, she whispered. God, my head. I did it for us, Rita, Eddie protested. She was filthy, a filthy, disgusting thing. The doctor's head shot up at Eddie, but Rita looked even angrier. She's my mother, she spat. All the others you formed on, all the people in our street, our friends. I had to. I did the right thing. Noise, Jessie whispered, cringing. Ah. The doctor adjusted his hold on her as Rita let loose. The right thing for us, or for you, Eddie, she challenged before turning to Tommy. You go, Tommy. Go with the doctor and Jessie and do some good. Get away from this house. It's poison. She glared at Eddie. We had a rutting monster under this roof, all right, but it weren't my mother. She simply slammed the door shut, and Eddie jumped. Rita, he shouted. The doctor looked down at Tommy. Tommy, he asked. Tommy nodded and walked down with them. What happened to her, he asked. Hate the boots, Jessie muttered as her eyes fluttered open, and then shot up, almost headbutting him. The wire, she shouted. What? Bishop asked, looking around. What wire? Tommy, tell me about that night, the doctor told Tommy, looking at Jessie in confusion as he helped her stand up straight. What wire indeed? She was just watching the TV, Tommy replied. Right off the bat, Jessie added, getting her footing back. Too many aerials. Who'd have this many on one street? Bloke up the road, Mr. Magpie. He's selling them cheap, Tommy added. That's where I was when I fell, Jessie agreed. Bishop raised an eye. Is he now? The doctor grabbed Jessie's hand. Come on. When they made it to the store, Jessie took the doctor's hand in Tommy's. Now what are you? Jessup began to ask when the doctor grabbed his arm. Boy. Jessie tugged on through the walls of the building, phasing right through it all. Remind you never to do that at night when you have absolutely no idea what's on the other side of the wall, she said. Shot, the doctor shouted, going to the counter. If you're here, come out and talk to me. He began banging on the bell. Magpie. Maybe he's out, Tommy suggested. Look at it, Jessie agreed, looking around. She heard a drawer open. Oh, hello, the doctor commented, and she looked over the counter as he brought out a portable TV. This isn't right, he continued, looking it over. This is very much not right. Jessie made a face when he licked it, mouthing idiot at him. But he just grinned at her. Tastes like iron, backlight, put together with human hands, yes. But the design itself, he smiled. Oh, beautiful work. That is so simple. That's incredible, Bishop whispered, looking at it. It's like a television, but portable. A portable television. Right, Jessie commented. 1950s. Gotta remember that. It's also not the only power source in this room, the doctor added, raising his sonic screwdriver. Jessie approached the TVs when they flickered on, and she ran a hand over each screen, with the face shouting, Help me. It almost happened to me, she whispered. Shield's training saved my life. Gran? Tommy asked in a small voice, looking at one of the screens. What do you think you're doing? Jessie turned as Magpie entered from the back. His face twisted when he saw her. You, he shouted angrily. The doctor pulled her to him. I'm glad to have my friend here, after seeing all this, he growled. I think this is all beyond a little backstreet electrician, so tell me, who's really in charge here? Jessie saw the TV with the wire flicker on. Her, she whispered. Yoo-hoo, she called out in a sickly sweet voice, and they all turned to her. I think that must be me. Oh, look at that. That's one smart as paint, just like his friend. Is she talking to us? Bishop asked. I'm sorry, gentlemen, lady. I'm afraid you brought this on yourself, Magpie apologized. May I introduce you to my new friend? Jolly nice to meet you, the wire commented. Yeah, good to see you again, too, Jessie muttered. Oh my god, Bishop whispered incredulously. It's her, that woman off the telly. No, it's just using her image, the doctor explained. What? Tommy asked, turning to the wire. What are you? I'm the wire, and I'll gobble you up, pretty boy, the wire replied with a sneer. Every last morsel, and when I have feasted, I shall regain the corpuscle body which my fellow kin denied me. Good Lord, Bishop gasped when the image transformed, and Jessie was seeing a colored TV screen. Color television. So your own people turned to stop you? The doctor asked. They executed me, she replied, but I escaped in this form and fled across the stars. And now you're trapped in the television. Not so much longer. Doctor? Tommy asked timidly. Is this what got my gran? Yes, Tommy, the doctor replied. It fed off the electrical activity of her brain, but it's gorging itself like it's a grape over fist pig, taking people's faces, their essences, it's stuffing itself. Are you letting her do it, Magpie? Bishop accused. Good boys figured it out, Jessie thought in appreciation. I had to, Magpie protested. She allowed me my face. She promised to release me at the time of manifestation. What does that mean? Tommy asked. The appointed time, the wire replied smugly. My crowning glory. The coronation, Jessie told the doctor. Doctor, the coronation's today. For the first time in history, millions gathered around the television set, the doctor agreed, figuring it out with her. But you're not strong enough yet, are you? You can't do it all from here. He held up the portable TV he held in his hands. That's why you need this. You need something more powerful. This will turn a big transmitter into a big receiver. The wire smiled. What a clever thing you are. But why fret about it? Why not just relax, kick off your shoes, enjoy the coronation? Believe me, you'll be glued to the screen. Doctor, Bishop shouted, and Jessie made to move away again, but this time she was too late. The energy caught all four of them, and Jessie struggled not to let go. She heard something vaguely that the wire was screaming before she blacked out. She came to a little while later when someone shook her. Miss Jessie? Tommy asked desperately, looking at her worriedly. Huh? Was what she managed as she rolled her head around. Come on, the doctor told them from where he stood in the door. The three of them ran out onto the street, and they looked around. We don't even know where to start looking, Tommy said. It's too late. It's never too late, a wise person once said, the doctor replied, then tilted his head. Kylie, I think. He shook his head, getting back on topic. The wire's got big plans. He began nodding after thinking. Yes. It's got to harvest itself the population. Millions and millions of people. And where are we? Jessie looked around. I think it's Moswell Hill. Moswell Hill, Tommy confirmed. The doctor shook his head. Moswell Hill, he brightened. Moswell Hill, which has Alexandra Palace, biggest TV transmitter in northern London. Oh, that's why it chose this place. He grinned at Tommy. Tommy, Jessie. What are you going to do? Tommy asked. He grinned. We're going shopping. Jessie poked her head up over the top of the counter, tossing a bow somewhat or other to the doctor. This what you want? He caught it. Perfect. He dropped it in his box. Right, I need one more thing. He ran out the doors, and Jessie picked up the box. She and Tommy went outside, and she grinned when he ran into the TARDIS. They followed him, and he joined them a few minutes later. Got it, he announced. Let's go. She tried to keep up, honestly did. In the end, she growled and ripped off her high-heeled boots and chucked them off to the side, running in just her tights. Just so we're clear, never again, she shouted at the doctor. There, Tommy shouted, pointing to the transmitter mast. The doctor grinned, stopping what he was doing, building something. Come on. They ran for the gates, and a guard tried to stop them. Wait, where do you think? The doctor flashed the psychic paper, and the guard stopped, caught off guard. Oh, I'm very sorry, sir, madam, he blinked. Shouldn't you be at the coronation? They're saving us seats, the doctor replied, entering. Who did think we were this time? Jessie asked. The doctor took a look at the psychic paper, and he raised an eyebrow. King and Queen of Belgium, apparently. She stopped short for a second. What? The doctor opened the control room and began setting his device thing up, and then turned to Tommy. Keep this switched on, he ordered. Don't let anyone stop you, Tommy. Everything depends on it, you understand? Tommy nodded, and the doctor took a coil of copper wire, smiling at Jessie. Let's go. You'll get yourself killed up there, the god shouted as the doctor and Jessie ran past him. Your Majesties! Jessie leapt up onto the mast and began to climb, concentrating, her Asgardian arming swirling on, leaving her with firm feet. Nice, the doctor praised. She looked down. Get a move on, Doc. Don't call me Doc. After a few moments, they made it to the end of the mast, red energy streaming from the top to other aerials. It's too late, Magpie called to him. Jessie stayed down as the doctor kept climbing. It's too late for all of us. I shall consume you, Doctor, and Bad Wolf, the Wild Lord. Jessie jumped. I never said I was Bad Wolf, she thought nervously. I won't let you do this, Magpie, the doctor simply shouted. Help me, Doctor, Magpie simply cried and replied. It burns. It took my face, my soul. You cannot stop the wire snarled. Soon I shall become manifest. No more of this. You promised me peace, and peace you shall have. Jessie's jaw dropped when Magpie was zapped to nothing. The doctor growled. Been burning the candle at both ends? He asked, climbing up to the portable TV. You've overextended yourself, Mrs. You shouldn't have had a crack at a poor old Magpie there. Energy rushed towards him, but he wasn't electrocuted. Jessie tilted her head, grinning when he made it to the portable. Rubber soles, he crowed. Swear by them. He plugged in the cable, and Jessie winced when nothing happened. The wired smiled sweetly. Oh dear, has our little plan gone horribly wrong, Doctor? She cooed. Come on, Tommy, Jessie whispered. Come on. A few seconds later, the red energy began to react towards the mast, and Jessie whooped in delight. Yeah, Tommy! No, the wired wailed. It's closed down, I'm afraid, the doctor told her, and no epilogue. The wire screamed, and then the screen went black. The doctor slipped it into his pocket and then climbed back down towards her. Good boy, Tommy, he commented. What have I missed? The doctor asked, walking into the control room. Doctor, Tommy said happily, then looked around worriedly. Where's Jessie? What happened? She went someplace, he replied. Everything's sorted. Electrical creature, TV, technology. Clever alien life form. He pointed to himself. That's me, by the way. He dug in his pocket. I turned the receiver back into a transmitter, and I trapped the wire in here. He pulled out a VCR tape, and then he grinned. I've just invented the home video 30 years early. He looked at the TV, smiling. Betamax. Oh, look, he smiled at Tommy. God save the Queen, eh? The two of them walked back towards the place where they had met Bishop. And there was a cry. The old woman from inside the house ran towards Tommy and gave him a huge hug. Just past her, the doctor grinned when he saw Jessie walking and laughing with a few of the people. She turned towards him and gave him a matching grin, and then she began running to him. He caught her and spun her around, hugging her tightly. She clung to him just as hard, burying her face in his neck. You brilliant girl, he whispered to her. He could feel her grin. You fantastic alien, was her reply. We could go down to the mall, Jessie offered, smiling as they joined the crowd of people in the streets. Join in with the crowd? Nah, the doctor replied, grinning. They just pomp and circumstance. This is history right here. She smirked. The domestic approach. Exactly. She nodded to the VCR in his hand. Is it trapped for good on video? Hope so, he looked it over. Just to be on the safe side, though, I'll use my unreliable knowledge of transmittal expiration methods to neutralize the residual electronic pattern. Use what of what to do what to the huh? He grinned at her. I'm going to tape over it. She laughed. Give it to me. I'm always doing that. The doctor turned to the boy at her side and patted his shoulder. Tell you what, Tommy, you can have our scooter. Little present. Best keep it in the garage for a few years, though, eh? Jessie grinned, then her gaze was risen when she saw Eddie Connolly walking off from the house in a large overcoat, a suitcase in hand. Good riddance, Tommy muttered. Is that it, then, Tommy? The doctor asked curiously. New monarch, new age, new world, no room for a man like Eddie Connolly? That's right, Tommy agreed. He deserves it. Jessie looked after Eddie, then made a decision. He was cruel, but he thought he was doing was the right thing for his son. Tommy, she whispered, go after him. Both of them shot her a look. What for? He asked. He's your dad. He's an idiot. Jessie grinned. Of course he is. Like I said, he's your dad. But you're clever. Clever enough to save the world. So don't stop there, she nudged him. Go on. Tommy looked at her, then nodded and ran over to his father. Jessie smiled, watching him as he took Eddie's suitcase. The doctor picked up a glass of orange and handed it to her. Here's to the old team, he said. More than that, she said, taking the glass and raising it. Stuff of legends, the two of us are. He grinned. The stuff of legends, he grinned with a chuckle. They clinked glasses, tilted their heads back, and drank. Jessie seriously hoped no one saw when she choked on the alcohol taste, and the doctor nearly spat his drink back into the glass. Oh yeah, just a normal day for the two of us. Okay, that's it, and my throat hurts now after reading 4 chapters. Okay. Peace out, Knights.